Welcome back to another episode. My name is Sam,
My name is Anna.
and today we're going to be discussing languages and communication because inside the community, we are learning and discussing this topic at the moment. And I have prepared some questions which we will be discussing in the group calls inside the community. So we thought we could discuss these questions today. So, Anna, how many languages do you speak? Even just a little bit. So, you're a Polish native speaker, so that's one, and you can speak English. Any
It's
more?
two. Uh, I think that I can introduce myself and probably say good morning and such stuff in German. But that's about it. My German is very poor, despite of quite a few years of learning at school. It wasn't very effective. So yeah, maybe I should give it another go. But for now, it's a very, very small bit of German aside of Polish and English. What
Okay,
about you?
so
Yeah.
I speak just English to a point of like well, good enough.
No.
I can, speak a little bit of Spanish. However, since I stopped studying it 6 years ago, every like 6 months or something, or like a year, I'm a language teacher. I don't speak a second language fluently. I should probably learn a second language so I know what my students are going through, especially when they get to like an intermediate stage or like an advanced stage. It makes sense in my head for me to go through that experience so then I can kind of get understand them more, the people I'm helping learn English. But then when I thought about it a little bit more deeply, I think that is that really what's stopping me from helping more people is the fact that I don't speak Spanish to a fluent level. I don't think it is. So I kind of always like start again for like a week and then I just stop because I realize that my motivation and my heart really isn't in it. But maybe in the future when I get a little bit more free time, I might start learning again. Who knows? But I really need to actually commit to it and think about if it's something I
Mm,
want to do because I don't want to just do it for 2 months and then spend all that time learning for 2 months and then say actually
drop it and
no,
lose it.
yeah, and then go backwards again. So I think if I need to make the decision that I kind of need to do it, I want to do it, and then stick to it. But yeah, a little bit embarrassing, but I am
Ah, come
English,
on.
and English people aren't very good at speaking second languages. I don't know many people who can speak a second language, which if you compare that to the average European, that would be quite strange, wouldn't it? Because I think most people in Europe can speak at least one second language, don't you think?
Mm, I don't know how many really. I think that a lot of young people speak English now, no matter what their um, native language is. People learn English a lot, but then English is the like default language now to communicate with other nationalities. So since you already speak English, there is not that much of a point of learning another language, right?
You've just been listening to Anna speak English. When I first met Anna, she was so scared to speak English that she was almost fainting with stress before our first group call. However, over time, with the right structure and practice, she became the fluent and confident speaker she is today. If you want to learn English and grow fluency and confidence the same way that Anna did, you can join the Deep Dive English community. You can try it for free. The link is in the description. I think learning a language is like a really good skill to do, and I think that's why I would do it. But because I don't need to learn Spanish, that motivation really isn't there for me, like you said. And if you speak English as your native language, usually you
Mhm.
are learning that second language because of it's like a hobby or an interest of yours, unless you work with Spanish clients or if you live in Poland, for example, then it's different. But learning English is really a necessity. Oh, a necessity now for lots of young people. But learning like a second language for someone in England never is a necessity. So, well, sometimes it is, but not for most people. So maybe in the future, but not yet. So how come you studied German in school? Was this the main second language that people learn? Or was this like an extra subject that you chose?
No, it was the only language I think that I could uh, study when I was in primary school and secondary school. And yeah, that was, I think that probably it was because this teacher was available. I have never really thought much about it. We just had these lessons as a default. But I remember like changing the teachers quite a lot. Like they would come and go. I think that they weren't very committed to really teaching. And yeah, we would just go through the same grammatical rules over and over and don't really practice any speaking. So, and personally, I find um, the German language, like the whole structure, quite unnatural for me personally, or maybe not very like intuitive.
Okay.
So probably that's also a reason why I didn't pick up that much of the language despite this long time of learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, not
Okay.
much.
I remember when I was in junior school in the last year, so I would have been like 10 years old. And that's when we had our first French lesson, and someone came into the school and started teaching French, maybe on like a specific day, and they went around the classes. And then in secondary school, you start learning. Everyone takes French in year 7, which is like the first year of secondary school. And then Spanish gets introduced in year 8, which is the second year of secondary school. And then you can choose to continue to do one of those subjects if you want to, but languages really isn't emphasized in schools in the UK, and it's really very optional. But maybe I don't know if they plan to change this. I guess not, because like I said before, English is the dominant language around the world. So I think people tend to just focus on maths and science and humanities and social subjects instead of languages. But yeah, they were just so bad, the language lessons in school. It's just really difficult because no one really knew what they were going. No one really knew what was going on, and it wasn't really very practical. And mostly it was just like learning vocabulary. So I just don't think it's like set up in a good way for children to succeed. But I don't really know like the best ways to teach a language to like young kids and get them involved and actually get them to understand and start using the language. And also, there's a big disparity in the top
Mm.
students and the bottom students in understanding the subject. And if you're learning a subject like Spanish or French and or German, and you know that you're not going to learn it when you're older, or you're like, oh, I can't wait to stop learning French and drop this subject, then your motivation to be in that class and learn is basically zero. But yeah, we had also Latin lessons in our school, but they stopped teaching it the year before where we could choose to take it. So yeah,
Latin.
Latin. Yeah, I kind of understand why they stopped teaching Latin, because why would someone learn Latin? I don't know.
I don't know why. It's a dead language, right?
Yeah, I really don't know why, unless you're already into Christianity, maybe. I don't know.
Or certain history.
Certain history, Catholicism. There we go. Does the Pope still speak in Latin?
Pope?
The Pope?
I don't really know. I don't think. I don't think
Okay.
so. I think that when he speaks to people, he just speaks his language, probably.
Okay. But for example, the Pope now is American, right?
So he speaks English, probably, right?
Oh, yeah, but I think he speaks loads of languages. But I think, isn't it like historical and traditional for priests to preach in Latin when they're in church?
No, it used to be this until
Mm.
some point in the history, but I can't really remember when it has changed.
Yeah.
But it's been like, I'm not sure, like 200 years ago maybe, or something.
Yeah. I just didn't know if there was still like, maybe like a tradition, or like, those really hyper Christian people and traditional Catholics that they kind of like going to ceremonies in Latin because it's traditional. I don't know. But yeah, when I
Uh,
was in.
s-
Go on.
Sometimes you have a little bit of Latin, just like an introduction of a certain
Ooh, okay.
prayer, for example.
Nice.
Just a little bit, like left, I don't know, for the taste, I think, for the atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was in Croatia, they had a statue in Split of the first priest to preach in Croatian rather than Latin. And they created a statue of him. And if you rubbed his big toe, it meant that you got good luck, I think.
Did you do this?
I think I did, yes. I think I did. Can't remember
Uh,
no, I think you get a wish maybe. Maybe a wish, but I can't remember what I wished for.
did it happen?
Maybe to survive my stag do. Okay, and I think I did survive. So I guess it came true. But
So he gave you this
he gave me the good luck exactly.
good luck. Amazing.
But our tour guide on that trip, when he was talking about it, said that the way that you know a good sculptor, a person who makes statues or something, is by looking at the hands and the fingers of the statue. And if they look well done and they're detailed, that person is good at making statues. And if they're just, you can imagine a bad statue of a hand, can't you? Just a big blob. That's the way to tell, apparently. And this statue had very detailed hands, so they were
Well done.
huge, but they're very detailed.
Nice. So good job.
Yeah, good job,
Of
that
them.
person. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I only speak one language. You speak two languages. I learned French in school, and I can probably say about 10 words in French. So the school system failed me, and the school system failed you, and you're German, right?
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't learn any English in school?
I learned grammar.
Right.
And I learned a little bit of vocabulary.
Okay. But it's not. Do you think nowadays, in school in Poland, do you think English is the second language that the main foreign language that they learn?
I think definitely it is.
Okay.
Probably people have like more choice. Probably they can like learn two languages at the time, two foreign languages, especially probably in secondary school, like this general secondary school. But I'm quite sure that English is the default language now.
Okay. Interesting. Makes sense. Is there a word in Polish, that doesn't exist in English that you can think of?
There is one word that comes to mind.
Okay. Is it a rude one,
You
Anna?
can tell me, sorry?
Is it a rude one? You looked a bit mischievous then.
No, it's not a rude word. It's something I can't really think of an equivalent in English. Maybe you can tell me. But we have a word that was especially used quite a lot in communistic times when there was a big shortage of everything. And this word sounds like kombinować.
Okay.
Kombinować, which is a verb, and it means like figuring out or using some loopholes, or like having things done in a quite creative way.
Like resourceful. The person is being resourceful. There's not many resources, and they are using what they have available to achieve their goals, essentially.
Yeah, I think so. Though it's a verb, and it like combines all these
Hmm.
all these circumstances together, like
Right.
all the situation and like the fact that you have to be creative and
Hmm.
like figure out a solution.
Okay. Yeah, we don't think we have a word like that. It sounds like someone who's like cunning and maybe resourceful, but definitely not a verb. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't answer this question because obviously my native language is English. But one of the interesting comments I saw in the community this week was that in English we only have like one word for love, which is weird. So
Mm-hmm.
I love my girlfriend. I love my family, like my mom and dad. I love my sister. I love my dog. I love my friends. I love some of my hobbies. I love like doing certain things. I love films, and we use the same verb, which is weird, isn't it? It that needs to be, all these different types of love are very different, and it's very strange that we just have one word for all of this because the love that I have for my friends is very different from the love I have for my family, and that's very different from the love I have for my girlfriend. So it's really weird that we have this one word because in English we actually do have it's a very rich language sometimes for very specific like verbs. So there's loads of ways that you can say like walking. So you could say like walking, strolling, strutting. I could. I'm my mind's going a little bit blank now, but we sometimes for certain verbs and actions we have loads of different ways to saying it, like based on just small nuances and differences. But with love, we just have one word, which is strange. We have like different words, like adore. I wouldn't say I adore my family. I'd say I love my family, but I wouldn't say I adore my family. People could say like I adore this film or this location. I adore Madrid, for example. But yeah, with love, it's strange. So maybe we need to invent some new words for that. But love is a very old word, so I think it'd be difficult to replace that and get that into the common vocabulary of people. But do you have different words in Polish for love?
We have separate, like in English, love is both verb and noun. And in
Mm-hmm.
Polish, we have like different words for verb and noun. But again, it's similar to English in the way that we use the same verb or the same noun to describe our feelings towards like whoever, no matter if it's your partner or your family, your parents, or child, or pet, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Though I would say it's kind of similar to the word friend. I think that we put more emphasis in these words. So, for example, I wouldn't probably say I love a film that much or music or like yeah. I think that we just use it less in such context. Like it would have to be your favorite film to say that you love it,
Hmm.
and not just a film that you saw and you liked.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that in many cases in English you use the word love in such like
Yeah.
kind of
100%.
light-hearted contexts.
Yeah. If I was speaking to someone and I said, "Did you see this film in the cinema?" They could say, "Oh yeah, I loved it," and it'd be very casual,
Hmm.
and it'd just be like they thought it was a great film.
Yeah, and if I said it in Polish, it would mean that it's a film that I'm going to watch like a number of times again and again because
Okay.
if I loved it, it means that I really loved it.
Hmm. So yeah, English people make some new words for love. That would be handy. Okay, Anna, what is the hardest thing about English for Polish people, do you think?
Mm, I think that using articles is
Ah, okay.
problematic
Why?
because we don't really have it that much, or we have it but we use it in like very limited contexts. Not always. In English, you always have to have an article, like almost always with each noun usually use an article. And in Polish, it's only in like very limited contexts. If you want to point on a certain object, for example, then you will use an article. But in many cases, if there is if it's kind of obvious what object you mean, or if it's like any object of that kind, you probably don't use any articles.
Okay.
So
So
I
when
think
you
that
were
many people skip
learning,
it.
oh, okay. So when you were learning articles, did you feel like it was like really weird for you to learn about those specific grammar rules in English?
I think that my mind just has a tendency to skip it unless I pay attention or unless I train it a lot using these articles. Yeah, so it's a lot of listening and paying attention that this article has to be there. Otherwise, it's not right. So
Okay.
yeah, it takes some effort, like some conscious effort.
Yeah, I can imagine that's really strange. It's like when I was learning Spanish, the verb conjugations were just really weird for me to try and understand. I was like, wow, you have to do this for every verb? This is crazy. Because in English, we don't really do it. But yeah, that was annoying, but nice. And Anna, when you speak English compared to Polish, do you feel like you're a different person or are you the same person?
Mm, I think that I am the same person, but
Okay. Well,
I
we know
think
you're the
that
same person, but do you feel like the same person?
I feel like mostly I feel like I am the same person in
Okay.
English as I am
Okay.
in Polish.
Okay.
Uh, I don't think I react differently or think differently. But one thing that I really have to pay attention is being less direct in English.
Okay.
Because in Polish society, people are quite direct. And for example, it's very obvious with giving feedback when in the Polish settings, in the Polish interactions, when you ask someone for feedback, most of the time you will receive a list of corrections, just a list of corrections. And in English or in like more international settings, you are kind of expected to apply these like English rules of being, from my point of view, kind of overly polite or like kind of mild in your in giving your feedback, for example, in this case. So you got to first say that someone did a good job, then you give your corrections or like your real feedback, and then you leave them with some more encouragement.
Exactly. That's the classic feedback sandwich of
Yeah,
good, real thing, the actual feedback, and then good on the other side as well. It's the
yeah.
feedback
And
sandwich.
in Polish, most of the time when I was correcting something for my friends or they did something for me, uh, we basically take as a default that if you don't mention something, you think it's good. So like there's no point of saying this good job or something like this and elaborating on it, because if you didn't mention something, it just means that it's a good job already. So, like you just get straight to the point what you think needs correcting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think in English we always need to like highlight the good points. Even if someone said, "Can I have some constructive feedback on this essay or this design or something like this?" or just say, "Can you point out anywhere that I can improve?" If someone just replied with, "I think you need to change this and change that and do this," yeah, people might find that a little bit like like rude or direct or something like that. So you'd want to hear someone say, Well, first of all, I really like what you've done with this. But if I was doing it, I would probably do this differently. But yeah, we'd like to have the positives first. But yeah, even when we were looking at some questions yesterday, inside the community of how to form questions, we were looking at those like indirect questions, and they're really different. And you just have to ask questions in an indirect way a lot of the time if you want to be polite in English, which is weird. So
I think that this is the same actually. The examples we made, I think that, for example, if you ask, like the example was, for example, you are in a train station and you ask your friend what time the train leaves, and you just ask them, what time the train leaves?
yeah.
Does the train leave?
What time does the train leave? Yeah.
Does the train leave? But if you ask someone who like you don't know, then you will say, I'm sorry, could you tell me?
Yeah. Or can you please tell me when the train leaves?
Uh-huh.
Do you have any idea when the train leaves? Yeah.
And then they say yes, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do actually. Yeah. Oh, would you be kind enough to tell me when the train leaves? Yeah. Okay. So you don't feel like a different person, but you realize that you have to be aware of being more indirect than you would be in Polish. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is.
Some people complain that they feel like they're not as funny as they are in their native language because humor, I feel like, is one of the hardest aspects to kind of like grasp in a second language. And a lot of the time, humor is very cultural, and also it's very based on the context. So if we watched, there's a British comedian called Peter Kay who is from Bolton in Greater Manchester, and people from Bolton, when he's doing his comedy act, people that are the same age as him and they're from Greater Manchester or the Northwest or specifically Bolton, these people are going to find his comedy more funny because it's like situational comedy, and he is, I think that's the right phrasing, but he's kind of just like looking at normal day-to-day situations, what we take like granted and normal, and he's like making them funny essentially. And if you kind of understand it and you've experienced those things, you find it funny. But if you're very posh and you're from the poshest place in London, or if you're part of the royal family or something, you're probably not going to get it, and you're probably not going to find it funny. And if you are from Poland and you're listening to this man do comedy, then you're probably not going to find it funny whatsoever, even though you understand literally every single word he's saying. You probably won't find it funny. And but even when just communicating with other people speaking that language, you feel like you can't be as funny as you would be in your native language. Does that make sense? I've heard like a few people complain about this. So do you feel like that?
I think it's true because of the local context of humor. But it goes with like general understanding. I think that the cultural background and the places you were raised in, like the more you share with certain people, the better understanding you have. Like when you talk to each other, you need fewer words to express ideas. They would grasp it quite easily, and yeah, the less you have in common, I think that the more difficult it is to reach understanding, mutual understanding. So, and it goes with humor as well, even more probably because like humor is an abstract thing in general, right?
Sure. I don't think you need to like have a good grasp of a second language to be funny in that language. I can imagine two people that don't speak any shared language together could still sit together at a table and make each other laugh just through like body language essentially and facial expressions. and like noises and bodily movements. You could still make someone laugh like that. And we definitely have enough in common as humans to connect on that basis and still be funny. If someone is a light-hearted, whimsical, funny person and they meet someone else like this from a different language, I don't think they'll have any problem making each other laugh. But a lot of humor, especially like British humor, is very like language based. So kind of like making like quick jokes or references or things like this, and maybe people can't like unlock that at that speed. Like also like speed is often needed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if someone makes a comment and you have like 5 seconds to be able to produce that comment for it to be funny. If you said it 10 minutes later, it wouldn't be funny because and you need that
Too
level
late.
of speed. Yeah. So I guess people don't have, it's difficult to attain that in a second language compared to your first language. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that it just adds to the difficulty of producing something funny when you speak a different language.
Totally. Do you find English, do you ever watch like videos of English comedy or find things funny in English?
Well, recently I started watching, how is it called? This guy from Top Gear.
Top Gear?
Top Gear.
Jeremy Clarkson?
Oh, Clarkson Farm.
You've been watching
I
Clarkson's
started.
Farm?
Yes, I started.
After years of me recommending it, you finally started?
Yes,
God,
I started.
I'm so happy.
I watched this like first season.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite fun to watch, really.
Yeah.
It's a little bit staged. You can see sometimes like some of these jokes. You can see how they are made on purpose, like certain situations,
Mm-hmm.
overly complicated sometimes, or like made more comical.
Yeah, I think the producers know that if there's like a job on the farm that looks difficult or gruesome, or I don't know, that they find Jeremy would do it funny, they'd be like, he's got to do this because it would be funny, to to see him try essentially.
Yeah, but the situation, I don't know if you remember, he discovered some bacteria in his bottled water and these
I can't remember.
samples, and he had them already displayed in the shop.
Right.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, I have to reach this place like quickly before people buy it." So he took some race car, right, and he drove through the fields to
Okay.
have this funny recording, very impressive, of
Yeah.
him driving. And my husband was like, "Oh yeah, because they haven't invented mobile phones yet, so he can't call Lisa to tell
Yeah.
her to take these things from the shelf. He
Yeah.
had to rush to this place and do this personally."
Okay. But that is kind of a comedy show. Obviously, it's not primarily comedy, but there is funny aspects in there. But
Mm-hmm.
do you find some of the jokes that they make funny in there?
I found some jokes, yes.
Okay, that's good.
I
That's
found
great.
them funny.
Okay, nice. Great. And in Poland, are people judged by their accents? Because in the UK, we have loads of different accents, obviously, depending where you're from. I'm sure loads of people are aware that people from London sound different from people from Birmingham to Scotland to Northern Ireland to Liverpool, Manchester. All these places have different accents, and there's often a like north-south divide with accents. And if you have a look, if you watch BBC News, then you probably are aware of the RP accent. And if you listen to politicians, usually they speak with a certain accent, and people in positions of power and authority usually have a more posh, middle class, southern accent. So I feel like people with northern accents, especially from specific northern areas, probably get judged a bit on their accents, and maybe a few northern politicians might not be taken as seriously when they're speaking or sound as competent as their southern colleagues, but I think, but in the UK, accent and class are very tied together. So if someone has like a posh accent, if someone speaks, if I listen to someone speak and they're from the UK, I could probably tell you, I could have a good guess of how wealthy their family are based on just listening to them speak. If we took like 100 people from the UK and just I couldn't see them, I could just hear them speak, I think most people would have like a good guess of like how wealthy their family is just based on what they sound like. So yeah, accent and class are very tied in the UK, and obviously there's discrimination based on that. So it can go both ways. You know, if you hear someone who's really posh and you're working class, you might think that person is quite funny and comical because they sound really posh, and you're like, do you really sound like that, or are you putting it on? And then some more posh people might hear a working class or northern accent, and they'll be like, "Oof, yeah, do you work down a mine still?" So yeah, is that the same in Poland, or is it slightly different?
Mm, I think that in most of the country, the accents are kind of gone. So
Ooh,
there are some like slight differences. There are some regional words that people use in certain regions, but I would say probably it's not that obvious in many cases. Mm, there is one accent that is taken as a little bit silly, I think,
okay, just
which
one.
is, because it goes with some like funny breaking or some grammatical rules that is like very specific for this region. It's called Podlasia, and it's like in the eastern southern Poland, like more rural areas, I think. It's seen as, yeah, kind of countryside, and some people find it funny. But aside of it, I would say that mostly the accent's like almost gone.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so weird that the UK has so many different accents and it means something completely different. It's very strange. I can really have like a good understanding of what people's childhood is like, or people around them what their childhood was like, just based on their accent. All I need to hear is an incredibly posh Londoner's accent, like an 18-year-old, and I'm like, I could have a good guess of what you're interested in, what holidays your family went on, what type of schools you go to, your hobbies, what you'll probably do in the future, and in terms of like industry. And then if I hear like a really working class accent, I could probably have like a good guess at that as well, which is really weird in the UK, but very strange. So Anna, I think people have started creating devices to help with translation with AI. Obviously, we have Google Translate and apps like this where you can hold your camera over a menu or a sign and it will translate it into your native language, which is really useful when you're abroad. And I've never really properly used the audio feature, to be honest. Did I use it in Thailand? I don't think I did, really. I think sometimes it's quite good on like Google Translate where you can just type something in, and then you can press the speaker button, and it will project the like spoken version out
Translation.
to the point where they can understand at least. It might not be perfect, and there might be mistakes in there, but they have a general understanding of what you're trying to say. But I know with like AI, some AI tools, you can just have like a live conversation. So on like ChatGPT and stuff, like I could just have the phone here, and then both of us could speak in their native languages, and then it would like translate for it live, very seamlessly. I haven't tried that. I don't know how good it is, but with new technology, maybe learning a language and a second language will be pointless. Do you think this will be the case? Do you think people will stop learning languages and stop learning English, or because of how good translation devices and tools get, or do you think people will always do this in the future?
Hmm, that's an interesting question, really.
Thank you.
Personally, I I really appreciate being able to speak with someone face to face and like hear their voice as it is and understand them without any kind of devices between us. So, well, obviously there is a
Yeah.
camera
Yeah.
and there is a microphone, but still, I think that we can get quite a good impression of a conversation, similar to if we were just like sitting in by one table. So I think that it's really cool to be able to have the real impression of this other person and be able to just communicate without any devices. So I really enjoy it, and I think that there still always will be people who will be willing to take the effort, make the effort, and learn another language to communicate with other people. But at the same time, if there were some tools that would really make the communication like between languages very seamless and accurate, I think that in many settings, especially like in business settings, people will use it a lot, um, just because of the efficiency, because of how much time you have to put to learn another language. And especially like in business settings, I think that there is a lot of like technical language and very like difficult terminology to learn. So probably my guess would be that at some point people will use it quite a lot if it's accurate and delivers like the message as you want.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that if you're going to be using the second language a lot, then it's still better to learn it, and people will still want to learn it because it's like a bit of a flex. If someone from France comes over to London on a business trip and they don't need to rely on these kind of like AI tools, or it's kind of impressive to a certain level. If someone's there and they're like, "Oh, let me get my hearing device out" or something, it's not as impressive. It's kind of understandable. I'm not judging anyone. I don't speak any second languages, but just genuinely is more impressive, and people will want to have that skill, and they can connect with people better. And I think that it's just better if you don't have to rely on these devices, like you said. But like you said, if you go on holiday or if you're on a business trip, if I go to Japan, for example, and I don't want to learn Japanese because I feel like I'm only ever going to go to Japan once in my life. Like my parents went to
Mm.
Japan a few years ago, and I don't think they'll probably go back. Should they spend loads of time learning Japanese? I don't know. If they could just wear like a device, maybe. I don't know how it will work in the future. Maybe there's like some glasses or some like headphones type things, and everything gets translated. And you can. I don't know how speaking to people works. I don't know how that will work, but who knows?
A
What
whole
the
mask on your face.
Yeah, I don't know how what the future will look like. So we'll see. But um, yeah, it kind of makes sense for that. Or if there was a business conference in France and I don't know any French and I don't want to learn French, then you could go and you could listen to people and you could understand everything. Kind of makes sense. But if it's a language you're going to be using a lot, then yeah, I think people will still want to learn the language. But maybe we get more lazy when we progress through into the future because AI is making everything more convenient for us. So maybe learning a language will be too difficult for a lot of humans because it requires patience and consistent effort over a long period of time. So we'll see. Maybe we'll all just use AI, or maybe we'll learn an AI language. Who knows?
Learn AI language.
Learn an AI language. Maybe AI will create a new language for us to all learn, and it will be really easy for everyone. Who knows?
There was this language, right? Esperanto?
Yeah, that's not an AI language, though, is it?
It's not. It's not
No.
AI language, yes.
I meant like a scientific, futuristic, robotic language.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, doesn't sound too nice, does it? Maybe they'll create that. Who knows? Okay, those were the questions. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye bye.